Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is the worst and ugliest game in the entire franchise. This is something I'm sure a lot of people have either said or heard, and to be honest, I can see why. On release, these games had perhaps the coldest reception out of any other game, and whether it was the horrible frame rate, the disgusting textures, or the unusual glitches, there was something for everyone to complain about. And you know what? This influenced me to never touch the game. For the past 3 years, I didn't even think about buying it, and instead focus on playing through every other Pokemon game, but for better or worse, we're finally here. Luckily for me, the Switch 2 has made it seem like Scarlet and Violet runs and looks far better, so maybe it won't be so bad after all. Well, in this video, I'm going to be playing through Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to find out if it is actually good. The game begins introducing us to the world of Paldea and the academy we will be attending soon, Naranja Academy. And if you couldn't tell by the name, yes, we are in Spain. We're then shown in our room getting ready for school, and then we go downstairs to talk with our mom. I'll tell you what, she's kind of a baddie. Oh, well, the director of the school actually comes to our house to visit and introduce us to the academy, but I kind of thought, isn't it crazy that the director of one of the biggest schools in the world came to visit us? Are we important? Where's our dad? Well, he shows us the first starter Pokemon in this game, and I gotta say, these are cute. And also our mom gives us the newest iPhone. Thank you very much. But this beginning part of the game is a nice little walking segment where you see the starters interacting with the world, and you end up in this mansion across the street from us. And despite all the negativity about the graphics of this game, at least this cutscene is very nice. I mean, look at these guys. They all have their little personalities, and Fuecoco is, well, he's him. But then there's some random girl who pops up, and her name is Nemona. She actually is the student council president of this school and a champion ranked trainer. Yeah, it seems like our first day at the academy is kind of an interesting one. Well, she wants to be our friend, and I guess we are gonna have her as our rival. She seems to love battling too. Well, I'm not really sure about that because she's a champion rank trainer and I just picked up a Pokeball for the first time today. Anyway, the starter we're gonna go with is Sprigatito because, hey, I love cats. Nemona then decides to challenge us to a battle, but she will be going easy on us because she has a Quaxly that she's gonna raise alongside us. Poor Fuecoco. But now it's time to head out of town, and of course we have to say goodbye to our mom, and next we're gonna go learn how to catch Pokemon. Well, this isn't rocket science, but after catching a few guys, we meet up with Nemona again, and then we hear a loud Pokemon cry. When we go check out what it is, we fall off a cliff, but we're okay because the Rotom phone catches us. But we do see a Pokemon who looks like he is not in great shape, so we actually feed it our sandwich we got from our mom. How nice of us. But it seems to be in better spirits, and we walk through this cave to get back to where we were with it, and even though we get attacked a lot, it is able to defend us and carry us out the cave. Although afterwards, it doesn't really seem like in the best shape anymore. Well, we meet up with Nemona again and head for the lighthouse here, but we're interrupted by a boy named Arvin. He is the son of the Professor Sada, who we have not met yet, but he doesn't seem to be quite a big fan of his mother. Regardless, he tells us a little bit about this Pokemon, and its name is Koraidon, although this is not its true form. He doesn't really tell us much and actually says that we can battle him to see if we can take care of Koraidon going forward. He was no challenge at all, and we get Koraidon's Pokeball. Alright, now we can check out the lighthouse and get a view of our new school. So it's located in the city Mesagosa, and this is the biggest city in Paldea. Also, Nemona describes this world as beautiful, although I'm not really sure if I would use that word for this view. Well, we have our next destination, so we head on. On this route, I do have to say there is one Pokemon that I will be using throughout most of my playthrough here, and that is Paldean Wooper. This is actually my favorite Pokemon of all time, and no, I'm not kidding. Well, with our new team member, we can actually go ahead and make our way into Mesagosa. Well, first we gotta battle Nemona, and you better get used to it because she loves battling. You know, just like a lot of these early fights, it's not that serious, but Nemona terastallizes her Pokemon, which we haven't even learned what that is yet. Alright, well, we made it into the city, and it's actually quite large. The majority of stores are just weird food places that you'll notice every city in this game has. Probably one of the most annoying parts about this game is that you can't enter any buildings ever unless they sell you sandwiches, but I guess we'll just look past that for now. But after looking around for a bit, we can head on to the school gates. But before we can get there, we run into Team Star. I guess these guys are trying to recruit this girl into their team, but she doesn't seem quite interested. So we battle one of them, and then Nimona arrives with our Terra Orb, so we can terastalize our Sprigatito. I'm also starting to notice that Nimona has like a battling crush on us. Yeah, I mean, she's obsessed with it. So much so that she wants us to practice our terastalization on this random kid. But yeah, we defeat the other Team Star grunt and they leave. Alright, well, the girl thanks us and we could head on into school. So on our first day of school, we go to our homeroom class, which we share with Nimona, and it's clear that there is a wide range of ages in this school. Our teacher Jock has us introduce ourselves to the class, and then we can actually get let off free. First, we go speak to Arvin, and he tells us a little bit more about himself, but he actually needs some help. Apparently, he wants to collect these herbs that are very good for medicinal properties, and he wants us to help him, so we blindly agree. Then we get a call on our phone from someone named Cassiopeia, and they want us to help them take down Team Star, so of course we agree to help them too. And then finally, Nimona tells us about the gym challenge, which we are quite familiar with in all of Pokemon. So yeah, we have 3 different major objectives for this journey. Then after this, we head to the director's office, and we get contacted by Professor Sada. She tells us that she took care of Koraidon before us, and that it is in a weakened state, which is exactly what Arvin told us already. But she gives us her contact information, and she says she'll be in touch throughout our journey. But with that knowledge, we can head to bed in our dorm and get ready for the opening ceremony tomorrow. At this school, there is something called the Treasure Hunt, and this is basically where you get let free into the world and look for treasure. Now, this isn't necessarily a physical treasure. In fact, it has a lot more to do about the journey you take on living outside of the dorms and experiencing life on your own. So now that we have a lot of different objectives, I think that's probably what we're gonna go tackle now. So all the people we spoke to earlier give us the locations of our objectives on the map. So there are the gym battles, the Team Star bases, and the Titan Pokemon, which are guarding the herbs that Arvin wants. And just in time for our treasure hunt to begin, Koraidon actually gets into a motorcycle form. Well, this is definitely cool, so we don't have to walk across this entire country. Alright, well, we can actually head wherever we want now, because this is an open world game. Now, of course, there are certain level caps and things like that, and you still can't command Pokemon over a certain level unless you beat a gym, but I think we're just gonna head west. Along the way, we learn about something called picnics, but I don't think I used this once after learning about them. I guess they're cool though, because you can hang out with all your Pokemon, and I think this might be used for breeding. Again, not really sure. I never use this again. This is also the point of the game when I realized that these graphics were truly something out of 1995. Yeah, this is really bad. I mean, what am I looking at? I'm barely far away from this town at all, and look how this looks. Ew. Well, if we go up ahead, we see one of these strange towers, and if we climb it, we get to see a new Gen 9 Pokemon, Gimmighoul. Now, there's a rumor that if you catch or defeat a lot of these Gimmighouls, you'll collect 999 coins, and when you do, something special will happen. So for that reason, Gimmighoul is our next party member. But considering these chests only give like 50 a pop, I think it'll be a long time before we see whatever that special thing is. On the way to this next city, we do actually have a lot of trainer battles, but unlike every other Pokemon game, you have to talk to the people to initiate a battle. Yes, they don't just challenge you and you can't refuse this time. Honestly, really nice. Also, I forgot to mention, these Pokemon centers are like outdoors, and the Nurse Joys are really different, and I kind of like it actually. All right, well, we made it to the first city with a gym, Cortando, and for some reason, this is where I finally realized that you can't go into any buildings in this game. Unless they sell you food, and then you can, but you can't walk around in them. Yeah, I mean, this is just sad. Truly an end of an era we had with Sword and Shield. The last time you could actually speak to people inside their houses. Okay, let's head into the gym building here and begin our first gym test. We also see Nimona here as well, and she totally won't be stalking us for our entire adventure. Oh, I mean, she's also doing her gym challenge, of course. So the way these gym tests work is that there's usually something silly before the gym that you have to complete, very similar to Sword and Shield, actually. This time around, we have to push this bean thing, ball, I don't know what this is, but we have to make it through this obstacle course and put it in this basket. That's it. All right, so our first gym battle is against Katie, and she seems to be a baker. She also commands bug types, which is kind of ironic because you would think that someone as nice nice as her wouldn't like bugs, but I guess not. So since our permanent party members at the moment aren't that good against bug types, we're going to be using one of our temporary friends, Fletchling. As a fire flying type, this is going to be incredibly helpful for this gym. She starts off with a Nimble, which does get destroyed by Peck, and she sends out Tarantula, which faces the same fate as the first one. It seems that terastallizing is quite strong when you already have a type advantage. But now it's time to see her terastallization, and she has a Teddy Ursa. Honestly, I feel like she would have had a better shot at beating us if she didn't terastallize into a bug type, because it just went down to 2 Pecks. And with that, we get our first gym badge with the soul power of our Fletchling that isn't even gonna be with our party the whole game. Oh, also after you defeat a gym battle, you do take a nice picture with the gym leader, and I really do love these. Alright, after the gym, we speak to Nimona on the phone, and we get to choose our next location. We do have a lot of different options, and I'm thinking that we do hold off on taking on the next gym. We are right next to the Sky Titan for Arven's quest, but I'm assuming that this has a flying type Pokemon as the boss, and I don't have anything good against that, so I'm gonna hold off. Instead, I want to head to the east of the map, but along the way we do evolve our Sprigatito finally into a Florigato, and also we have a Fletchinder. Oh, and I should also mention that I did take on one of these Terra raid battles, which is very similar to the Dynamax battles that were in Sword and Shield. They're actually incredibly similar. The Pokemon in here can have exclusive abilities, I'm pretty sure, but I barely did these along my journey. So in the east, we find a giant Pokemon called Cloth, which is the Stony Cliff Titan. So the way these fights work is that you have an initial battle with the Pokemon using just your own, and then the next time you fight it, you actually get the help of Arven. This time around, the fight was pretty easy because we had a newly evolved Florigato with Magical Leaf, and after we defeat the Titan, we can go see this herb that Arven wanted to collect. He decides the best way to use this herb is to make a sandwich. Alright, well, we don't really feel too appetized by it, but Koraidon definitely does. So we give him our sandwich, and it seemingly powers up. But then Arven kind of shoos us away, and afterwards we see him bring someone out. I don't know. He's clearly hiding something. But on the bright side, we have a newly upgraded Koraidon, and Professor Sada actually calls us on the phone to tell us about it. Now, Koraidon can run faster, so I can see where this is going. We'll slowly be upgrading Koraidon along our journey. Alright, let's get back to the journey on the west coast. I wanted to go check out this nearby gym leader with water types because I think we would do pretty good against it. But on the way, we get stopped near a Team Star base. Cassiopeia gives us a call, and then some kid named Clive shows up. I don't think this is a kid. Anyway, we don't really want to take this on right now. I will be coming back to it soon, but I'm gonna go head on into Cas Carafa. This is a pretty uniquely designed city, and there's 2 elevators you need to fully navigate it. The cutscene that it gives you when you're climbing up these elevators, though, is really annoying. And also, as big as this city is, it just feels so empty, because you can't go inside any buildings. Well, when we do make it to the gym here, we see the gym leader Kofu running off, and we're asked by one of the gym workers to go help him and give him this wallet. I guess he went to this nearby port city, so we're gonna go there now. And actually on our way there, we're gonna get our next 2 permanent party members. First, I caught a Tinkatink, and then I caught a Girafarig because it's got a new evolution in Gen 9. Well, we head into town and find Kofu and his assistant, and they seem to have realized that he forgot his wallet. Of course, when we try to give it to him, this annoying assistant stops us, and because we don't know how to use our words, we waste our time in a battle. Thankfully, this battle actually gives us 2 new Pokemon. Our Tinkatank evolves into a Tinkatuff, and unfortunately our Paldean Wooper has evolved into Clodsire. I didn't want to have to evolve him, but Paldean Wooper is just not good in battle at all. Well, after this, we finally give Kofu back his wallet, and he has us do an auction for him. Yeah, he just gives us a bunch of money and says, go ahead, win this thing. I think this is like a $400 piece of algae or coral. I mean, I don't know why he would ever spend this much money on this, but alright. Well, that's really all for this town. We can go back to the gym now. But I also started to notice that the NPCs in the game are like unusually jacked and huge. I mean, look at this lady just walking through town. This lady looks like what, 6'3", 200 something? What are they putting in these Paldean sandwiches? Alright, well, let's go take on the second gym now. Kofu's first Pokemon is Veluza, and we have our Florigato starting off, so so we decided to instantly terastallize it. Sadly, it does survive one of our seed bombs and then hits us with a flying type move for some reason, which makes our Florigato basically one tap. We do end up taking it out, but not without losing a lot of our strongest Pokemon. He then sent out Wugtrio, which I don't even want to know what it is. But we have our Clodsire come out and it poisons the Wugtrio with its Poison Point ability. That being said, it did still take out a lot of our team and we basically just waited it out until the poison took care of it. His last Pokemon is Crabominal and it terastallized into a water type, of course, and yeah, this thing killed everybody except for a Sprigatito, which we did heal up after losing our last Pokemon before it, and yeah, it was able to take it out pretty easily. But what was not easy was this entire gym. I mean, I even had to heal. I also discovered that my Girafarig is too high of a level and won't listen to me. Well, after the gym, we talked to a guy named Hassel, who is apparently the art teacher at the school we go to, and then we decided to head and take on Great Tusk, the next Titan Pokemon. Now, this guy was a lot stronger than I expected. In fact, we only beat his first stage, and when I tried to do the second one, we got destroyed. So I decided to do a little bit of training, and eventually we were strong enough to take down Great Tusk with the help of Arven and his Scovillain. After the battle, we get the herb with Arven and have a sandwich with Koraidon. But then Arven finally reveals what he was hiding earlier, and he actually has a very injured Pokemon called Mabostiff. It got hurt in a battle a while ago, and it hasn't been the same since. It won't even open its eyes. This is why Arven was trying to collect these herbs, which has been healing our Koraidon. Apparently, these herbs were found in Area 0, and they tried to grow it all over the region, and that's why it's here. But we'll get to the lore of all that a little bit later. But after Arven feeds his Pokemon this sandwich, he actually opens his eyes, which is really nice, and this scene is kind of emotional actually. But what's important for us right now is the fact that our Koraidon has learned to fly. Yes, this is a very useful ability we will be using a lot. To my surprise, after progressing this far in the game, I'm actually having a really fun time with Scarlet. I think my favorite part is actually the team building, since there are so many different options. Now, if you guys are enjoying this video as much as I'm enjoying this game, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, since it's free and the best way for you to support me. Also, wouldn't it be nice to be one of my first 10,000 subscribers? Alright, let's get back into the adventure. Well, now there's no better time but to take on the first Team Star base. We shoo off the guard at the entrance and then head inside. Now, these areas are pretty unique, and you have to select your top 3 Pokemon and use them in battles, but you're not actually battling, you're just kind of sending them to attack the Pokemon that Team Star throws at you. These are really easy. I did not struggle with them at all. But once we defeat 30 Pokemon, we can challenge the boss of the base. This time, it's Giacomo. He starts off with Pawniard, so we have Fletchinder come out and handle business, and then he has a Reverum, but it is severely upgraded. I mean, this thing is huge. It does have a lot of HP too, but it really wasn't hard to take out because I think we were a little bit over leveled for this fight. Well, when we defeat him, we get a flashback into his backstory, and it seems like Team Star isn't even that bad at all. Like, these kids are not evil in any way. Giacomo was apparently the student council president, but people didn't like him, so they kicked him out of the role. But now they're trying to establish rules for Team Star and something called Operation Star, and they want him to make the rules. Yeah, I don't really see how these guys are evil. I mean, even when we talk to him after the fight and the flashback, he seems to be like a nice dude overall. Well, after Clive comes in and interrogates him a little bit, we leave and meet up with Penny. This is the girl that we saved at the start of the game, and she's from the supply unit, whatever that means. Cassiopeia just sent her over to give us some materials to make TMs. Well, with that done, we can go continue our gym challenge, and the next city we have to go to is Medali. When we get here, we actually meet up with Nimona again, and she wants to battle us this time. Her team consists of Rockruff, Palmy, and Quaxwell, and Florigato one-shot all 3 of them. Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more from this battle, but I guess Nimona's still holding back on us a lot. Alright, well, in this city, we can't take on the gym leader until we solve this very unique challenge. There's this restaurant here, and in order to face the gym leader, we have to put in the correct order. The way we know know what this order is we have to battle a bunch of trainers across the city and they'll give us some hints. So that's exactly what they do, and we guess it right on the first try. This is the gym leader Larry, and he uses normal types. His first Pokemon is Komala, and it doesn't really give us too much trouble, but oh my god, his next one definitely did. The Dunsparce is insanely tanky and surprisingly strong. Maybe I just got too cocky from how easy the Nemona fight was, but damn, this is a jump in difficulty. We just barely made it past the Dunsparce, and then we had to deal with the terrestrialized Staraptor, and I just didn't even want to play anymore. Yeah, we lost this gym battle pretty bad. So I figured we definitely needed to be a little bit stronger. In fact, I decided to evolve my Girafarig into a Farigiraf. Alright, surely we can beat this gym now. Once again, Komala is not a struggle for us, but the Dunsparce is still a bit of a challenge. We are able to handle it with our team, especially the new Farigiraf, but damn, that Staraptor is still scary. I really didn't know how we could beat this thing other than poisoning it, but yeah, it knows Facade, which was like the worst case scenario. For those of you who don't know, Facade actually deals increased damage when the Pokemon has a status condition, which is kind of hard countering my plan right now. I gotta be honest, we almost lost this fight again. I had to use like revives and potions. It's not my proudest fight, that's for sure. Well, we did beat him, even though it wasn't how I wanted to, and we get our third gym badge. You know, even though some parts of this game have been really easy, there are a couple of difficult fights, I'll give it that. We'll see if this lasts for a while longer. You gotta understand, my team, we're gonna develop into a really, really good roster. After the battle, we meet up with the chairman of the Pokemon League, Geeta, and she seems to be very invested in our journey. But well, it's time to move on. So I actually think we should take a little break from the gyms to go tackle the other stuff we've missed. First, I wanted to go take down the Sky Titan because we've seen it for a while now, and I bet it's not gonna be that difficult. So we climbed this mountain and met with the Sky Titan, and it was not hard to defeat at all. Bombardier only needed to be hit once or twice by our Farigiraf to defeat it, but after the battle, our Florigato evolves into Meowscarada. But now we go get the herb Arvin needs, and we feed Koraidon a sandwich of it, and he gives Mabosstiff a piece of the sandwich as well. It seems like the herb is really working because Mabosstiff even lets out a woof. As for our Koraidon's new ability, well, he can swim now, which does help us get another Titan a little later on, so I think we're actually gonna go do that. But first, I want to head back to the Academy because there is a feature that I haven't spoke about yet, but it's been available for a while. So you can take these classes in school and you have to complete a midterm at the end. If you do, you get some prizes, but it's not like a mandatory thing at all. I'm pretty sure this is completely optional. I just wanted to make a little note of that, but I won't be using this much. Alright, now let's make way for the next Titan. So when we swim across this lake, we find this little cutie here, and oh no, he was eaten. Oh, that's brutal. Well, this is the Titan Pokemon, Dodonzo, the false dragon Pokemon, whatever that means. We take care of his first phase pretty easily with Meowscarada, and then we follow him to this cave, and we find that little fish again. No, okay, well, he got eaten again. Oh, that's not good. All right, well, we take down Dodonzo again, even though it is a little bit stronger, but just when we thought we had it beat, that fish is actually the real Titan. You know, I kind of like this Tatsugiri guy. Maybe I'll get one for myself a little later. I gotta say, this was a unique take for the Titan fights, and it's actually a third stage instead of just the typical 1 and 2. It's also a little bit more difficult than usual, taking a couple members of our team to beat it. But with that done, we can go get the herb. We feed our sandwiches to the Pokemon, and Arvin starts to notice that Koraidon is physically pretty much fine. He thinks that maybe a mental block is the reason why it can't battle. I guess we'll learn more about that later. Also, the herb he gave to Mabosstiff this time didn't really work as much as the previous times, and that's kind of scary for him, I bet. But there's one more left, so hopefully that's the one to cure it. As for our Koraidon though, we have a new ability, and that's to climb walls. This is gonna be very, very useful going forward. Alright, well now there's no better time to go and collect our new Pokemon for our team, Tatsugiri. Now there are 3 different forms for this guy, but I went with this one because it looks the coolest in my opinion. I think it also is technically the strongest. Tatsugiri is a lot better when he's paired with Dodonzo in double battles, but obviously that's not possible right now, so we're going to be using him in a bit of reduced state. But to be honest, I think he's still going to be just fine. The only downside right now is that we can't even use him, like at all. He just won't listen to us. I guess that's the downside of doing this a little bit early, but whatever. I'm just happy we have him on our team. Alright, now let's head into this mountain pass where we do have a crossroads here. I'm gonna end up going this way to go take on the next Team Star base though. When we arrive, Clive is here and he tells us a little bit about the people in Team Star. Seems like these kids have been truant from school for a year now, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, it makes sense why he's investigating them, because he's obviously not Clive. If you can't tell who this is, man, I don't know what to tell you. Since this base is poison themed, I think we're gonna have quite the advantage over it, considering we have a Farigiraf. Psychic types are very strong against poison types after all. The leader of the base is named Atticus, and he seems to be a ninja, and he definitely is a step up from the last Team Star base. He has a skunk tank, a muck, and a Reveroom. Well, technically not the Reveroom you see that he's riding on, but he has a Reveroom in addition to the one he already has. You know what I'm saying. Regardless, we had a nice little squad of Farigiraf, Clodsire, and Tinkatuff handle the situation, and he was not really that difficult for us to beat, but definitely stronger than the last one. After beating him, we get a little backstory about Team Star and how they got their outfits, and then after we learn that these are just kids who have been bullied a lot, and this is how they've been coping with it. They also have this super lead boss that nobody's even met in their team, but they have immense respect for them. I'm very interested in this storyline, honestly. I kind of feel bad for these kids too. I mean, how bad do you have to be bullied to set up all of this and then not go to school for a year? But we can get our stuff from Penny and then begin our ascent of this huge mountain. This place is super snowy, but with the help of Koraidon, we're able to scale it with no problem at all, especially with that new climbing ability. Despite the climate, there are a few trainers on this mountain though, and we even evolve our Tinkatuff into Tinkaton. Once we start getting close to the top, we make it to the Glaciato Gym. I wouldn't really say this is a town or a city at all, it's kind of just a ski slope, but that's not important to us because we just need that gym badge. When we go inside, we meet up with the two Elite Four members, Rika and Hassel. After talking to them for a bit, we can start our gym test, and this time it's really easy. All we have to do is slide down this mountain with Koraidon. You really can't mess this up. You just hold forward and that's it. You did it. This gym battle is against the trainer Grusha, who used to be a professional snowboarder. He seems to be in a pretty bad mood though, so who knows what this battle has in store for us. I gotta say though, I will be taking out my new Tinkaton for a test drive. As we all know, steel types are quite good against ice types. He starts off with a Frostmoth who sets up Tailwind, which by the way makes their team faster for a few turns, but we do hit it with a Gigaton Hammer, which basically one-shots anything in its way because it's such a powerful move. The only downside is you can't use it 2 turns in a row. So I decided to switch out afterwards when he sends out Beartick, but really we're just stalling to get back Tinkaton and one-shot Beartick again with Gigaton Hammer. Next he sent out Satitan, and this time I sent out Clodsire, and yeah, I switched back to Tinkaton, used Gigaton Hammer, and one-shot it. But this time I didn't switch out Tinkaton. He sent in Altaria, and I for some reason figured, oh, maybe they'll terastalize into a dragon type. No, they just terastalize whatever their gym is. So I used Play Rough, and I couldn't even use Gigaton Hammer anyway. It didn't go down to it, but there was nothing to be worried about because Altaria only really can hurt us with Hurricane, and that doesn't do much damage at all. Meaning, just like everyone else, Altaria goes down to a terastalize Tinkaton Gigaton Hammer. You know, this was just really bad timing for Grusha, me getting a Tinkaton literally right before this gym. We get our gym badge, and Nemona congratulates us, but actually we are able to take on the next gym quite soon. Just under this area is Montenevera, where the next gym leader is. In the gym building, Nemona walks up to us and says that we can battle after this gym. So let's start the gym test. Our objective is to warm up the audience for the Gym Leader Rhymes concert. And how we do this is by defeating 3 opponents in double battles. After we do this, Rhyme shows up and gets the crowd going and starts her concert. So we go back to the gym staffer to report that we passed the gym test. When we come back, we see that Rhyme is having a rap battle, but let's interrupt and challenge her to a gym battle. She is a ghost type trainer, and this fight also uses double battles. We start off with Meowscarada and Farigiraf against her Mimikyu and Banette. I have Meowscarada use Night Slash on the Banette, and it gets one shot. But then I have Farigiraf use Twin Beam to knock off the disguise and also do a little bit of damage. Sadly, Farigiraf probably won't be that helpful going forward due to the type disadvantage, so I decided to swap out to Tinkaton. Her next Pokemon was Houndstone, which I had Meowscarada one shot as well. I had Meowscarada use Night Slash on Mimikyu, taking it down, but Rhyme sent out Toxtricity and Terrastalize it. I also used Brutal Swing, which does hit an allied Pokemon, but Meowscarada is Dark type anyway, so it didn't do much. And it only took one more turn before Rhyme finally went down to our superior Dark type moves. After the fight, Geeta congratulates us, and Nemona is also here ready to battle. We also learned Geeta is the true #1 champion in this region, which is definitely exciting knowing who our ultimate battle will be against. Not to mention, she's gonna watch our battle with Nemona now. She starts off with Lycanroc, but we just Terrastalize and one-shot it with Flower Trick. She says luck is on our side for a critical hit, but she just doesn't know that Flower Trick is a guaranteed crit. Alright, some champion you are. Well, we swap to Take a Ton when she sends out Goomy, and it gets one-shot by a Play Rough. Next up is Palmo, which manages to survive a Gigaton Hammer and paralyzes Tinkaton. This is futile though, because we just use Play Rough and take it down. Last up is Quaquaval, and we have our Meowscarada come out, and this is where I kinda realize these starters really do make me uncomfortable. Ugh. Anyway, it just gets one shot by our Flower Trick, completely demolishing Nemona in battle. I'm starting to think she's actually just a bad trainer and has been a fraud this whole time. Alright, well I'm kinda tired of this mountain life, so let's head to the east coast of Paldea and check out Artisan. Here in the gym building we meet up with our teacher Jock, who gives us a lucky egg, and then we start our gym test. This challenge involves us roaming around the city looking for Sunflora. Once we gather up 10, we pass the test and can take on the gym leader Brashus. And oh my god, he has a level 16 Petalil. Maybe we should have came earlier. I definitely tried to give him a little bit of a chance, sending out our lowest level Pokemon Clodsire, but I fear that won't be much help. He also has a level 16 Smoliv, who was one shot, and finally a Sudowoodo, who he Terrastalizes into a grass type, making it truly Wudo. Yeah, safe to say we got this gym badge pretty quickly. After the battle, we're congratulated by Hassel, and then we can move on into the nearby city of Lavintia. This is the first big city where there are shops I actually want to go into, and I actually got a new outfit here. Well, technically I used a mystery gift code to get this, since you can only customize your accessories in this game, but, well, at least we kinda have drip now. I got my Louis Vuitton backpack. There is a gym here though, so let's head into it. Nemona meets us here and challenges us to a battle once again. Hopefully she puts up even a little bit of a fight for once. Once again, she starts off with Lycanroc and Tinkaton one-shot it with Gigaton Hammer. Next she had Palmet, which went down to 2 Play Roughs. I mean, at least it hurt us a little bit. But next was Sliggoo that managed to avoid a Play Rough, but couldn't even do enough damage to knock out our red health Tinkaton, and it went down to Play Rough in one blow. Finally, she had her Quaquaval, and yeah, it went down to a Flower Trick from our Meowscarada. Still, Nemona is not a very great battler. Okay, let's take on this gym now. It seems like the gym leader Iono is a live streamer, and the gym test involves us being a part of her stream. Director Clavel is also here, and our test is playing I Spy, trying to find the director inside of these scenes. We also have to battle her fans in between this, and that was definitely interesting. Anyway, she finally lets us battle her, and she has an electric type themed team. Oh, and she has a level 23 Wattrel. Dude, how was I supposed to know that these gyms would be so low level? I mean, do you guys want me to commentate this battle? Gigaton Hammer, Play Rough, Gigaton Hammer, Play Rough. Well, her Miss Magius actually was able to take 2 brutal swings at least. I don't know, I'll talk more about this problem with the game later, but geez man, it's such a shame that such a cool character was so underwhelming in battle just because when I decided to take her on. Okay, after the fight we meet with Rika again, and this little baby, who is apparently an Elite Four member? Well, I guess I'm pretty scared now. Alright, well, I'm kind of in a bad mood now after not getting a challenge in battles, so I decided to head north in hopes of stronger foes. Eventually we stumble into this Team Star base area and we meet Clive again. He's gonna continue investigating the Team Star situation so he can understand why they became what they are now. But before we tackle this base, I remember a specific Pokemon I wanted to get that's around here. Bisharp. Well, not just any Bisharp, it has to be one of these that leads a group of Pawniard. He's gonna be our next team member, unfortunately replacing Clodsire. Sorry. I'll never forget all of the amazing work they put in for our team. As for our Bisharp, we need to use it to defeat 3 other Bisharp that lead those Pawniard. And when we do that and level it up, it evolves into King Gambit, an absolute monster of a Pokemon. Just don't let them get hit by any fighting type moves. But that's not it, we still have one final Pokemon left to complete our team, and over the course of the game, I've been slowly working toward it. That's right, this whole time I've been collecting Gimme Ghoul coins, and finally we have enough? And you know what happens now? We get a Goldango. This is perhaps the strongest Pokemon on our team, not only for its insane stats, but for its unique ability Good as Gold that prevents all status moves from affecting it. And if you don't believe that this Cinnamon from Applejack's looking thing is that strong, just stay tuned. But with our new team members, I wanted to train a little bit, and I ended up stumbling upon a really good grinding spot. Here we could farm Chanseys in the top left of the map, and coincidentally, there's also a Team Star base here, so why not take it on? When we make it into the gate, we see this guy named Harrington asking about the Young Master's piano lesson, whatever that means. But he wants to battle us, so we give him the work and get led into the base. After taking down all the grunts, we find the boss of the base, some rich kid named Ortega. He starts off with Azumarill, which is surprisingly able to tank a Gigaton Hammer. It then lowered our attack, so I just swapped out to Meowscarada and used Flower Trick to knock it out. Next up was Wigglytuff, and this time a Gigaton Hammer was enough to seal the deal. So after he sends out Dashbun to lower our attack once again, so I swapped into Goldango, making its big debut. And what do you know, we see the Good as Gold ability instantly come into use, blocking Baby Doll Eyes. Well, Goldango doesn't use attack stats anyway, so I'm not really sure what happened with Ortega's CPU and why he kept using Baby Doll Eyes. Regardless, the move Make It Rain erases a Pokemon off the map, and we finally face the Reverum. The only real downside with Goldango is the fact that he lowers his own special attack when he uses Make It Rain, but the only difference that made was having us two-shot the Reverum with it. Regardless, we see Ortega's backstory and how he came up with the idea for upgrading these Reverums into these Starmobiles. Then Clive shows up to ask more questions, and we learn that Team Star's bullies don't even go to the academy anymore, and also that Harrington is the former director of the academy. Harrington says that 18 months ago, the members of Team Star confronted the students who used to bully them, and they had an altercation. This was a big deal at the academy, and it ended up causing the bullies to all drop out of school. But this was wiped from the school records. Also, there was a certain person who took responsibility for Team Star's rebellion against the bullies in exchange for them not being punished. He ended up giving that student 18 months of overseas study as punishment, but in reality, he just wanted the student to have some time home in the Galar region. But this whole situation was controversial enough, and Harrington, along with all of the other teachers, resigned out of shame, which is why all of the current teachers have only been employed for about a year and a half. Damn, what a lore drop. When we leave, Cassiopeia calls us and says our ultimate goal with this is to eventually take down the big boss of Team Star. Okay, well, let's keep beating these bosses. Next up is the Fire-type base, and at the entrance we meet a Char cadet named Charlos. It seems like he has some sort of connection with the Team Star base, so we follow him inside and take down all of the grunts. We meet the boss of the base, Mela, and she has a level 27 Torkoal. Bro. Alright, well, that guy was exploded, and I figured why not see if Tatsugiri finally listens to me. And to my surprise, it did, and we one-shot her Reverum with Muddy Water. We get some backstory about Mela and her comically large boots. It seems like she wanted to get a lot of Shark cadets to evolve in order to power their Starmobiles too. Then Charlo shows up to say hi to Mela. Apparently, she played with him a lot when she was back in school. Clive then asks about Team Star and what they're even trying to do. Like, why these bases and huge Starmobiles even exist. All she's willing to say is that there was something called Operation Star, and that's an important memory for them. But they aren't planning to do anything against the Academy like all the rumors say. Alright, well, Penny talks to us afterwards, and then we're let free. While we're in the area, I figure it's a good time to take down the last Titan too. We eventually find Orthworm, and it's not strong at all, especially with our Tatsugiri finally deciding to listen to us consistently. Man, this little piece of sushi has so much aura, doesn't he? Now it's time to give Koraidon the last herb sandwich, but most importantly, see if Mabostiff's health recovers. At first, it seemed as if this was all for nothing, and Mabostiff would never move again, but then Arvin drops a Pokeball on the floor, and suddenly the Pokemon jumps up and brings the ball back to him. Finally, Arvin's Pokemon is all better again. Not gonna lie, we all cried watching this scene. But just to ruin Arvin's mood, Professor Sada calls us and tells us about Koraidon's new ability to jump higher. But Sada then hears Arvin is there, and she asks him to go to the lighthouse back at the start of the game. Seems as if she's been trying to reach him somehow. Reluctantly, Arvin agrees to go. Back in the lighthouse, we learn that the inside is a lab, but most importantly, that Professor Sada basically abandoned Arvin for her work. Worst of all, he's in a Pokemon game, so he doesn't even have a dad. Oh, that wasn't in the script. Oh, my bad. Oh, we don't even use scripts for these videos. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, in Violet, I think he has a dad instead of a mom. It's actually not that deep. Yeah. Well, we go into the lab and Professor Sada appears on the monitor. She says that she needs our help, and she needs us to bring the Scarlet book into her lab in Area 0, which just so happens to be filled with insanely powerful monsters and defense equipment. So, she says we need to bring some strong allies when we go inside. Okay. By the way, Area 0 is that big crater of Paldea we've been hearing about. Tempted to know more, Arvin decides to go, but he wants to test his strength strength against us in battle first. He starts off with Greedent, and we use Flower Trick, which barely does anything to it. I just decided to use U-turn and switch into Goldango. Thankfully, Body Slam doesn't work on Goldango, and we take it down with Make It Rain. Next was Scovillain, and I hit it with Power Gem for a lot of damage, but then it hit us with Fire Blast and one-shot us. Not a great look. I decided to have Farigiraf come out, but I was unexpectedly slower than that Scovillain and took a ton from its crunch before taking it down. Arven sent out Toadscroll, and honestly, I didn't know what this Pokemon was, so I sent out Tinkaton in fear. Also, his Pokemon are pretty strong leveled. I forgot to mention that. Somehow we tank an Earth Power from it, but then it tanks a Gigaton Hammer, so sadly we lost that exchange and our Tinkaton as well. I sent in Tatsugiri and had it use Dragon Pulse to finish it off, but we still got hit beforehand. Next up was Garganacl, so I used Muddy Water. Of course, we missed. Definitely swapping that out for Surf later. Well, I figured I'd send in Masquerada and Terrastalize, using Flower Trick to knock it out. But due to the level gap, it was able to tank a hit, and it hit us for a lot. Thankfully, his next Pokemon was Cloyster, and that definitely got one-shot by Flower Trick. Finally, he sends out Mabostiff with that stupid smile on his face. We miss a Play Rough, and then he hits a Fire Fang on us. I have King Gambit come out, who is tremendously boosted by his ability, which increases stats per every fainted ally. We're actually able to tank a Fire Fang pretty well, and we use Low Kick, doing more than half of his HP. Now we just repeat that same turn, and finally defeat Arven. Congratulations, Arven. You were one of our first challenges in this game, and all it took was you being 10 levels higher than me. Nice. Well, that's the end of one of the major quests in the game, but we have a new one. Gather some strong allies to tackle Area 0. But I think we should focus back up on completing our other missions anyway, so we head to the last Team Star base. The boss Ari is actually waiting at the door for us, but one of the grunts doesn't really want her to fight, so we take her down first. Then we go into the base, defeat all the Pokemon, and finally face Ari in battle. Her first Pokemon is a level 55 Toxicroak. For some reason I used Play Rough on it, but then I just Gigaton Hammered it after to finish it off. Probably could have done that from the start. Next she sends out a Annihilape. Okay, well I wasn't expecting that, and I also know that this guy is very strong and I need to be careful. Thankfully I have the perfect counter to it. I send in Goldango and Terrastalize, one-shotting it with Shadow Ball. Next she has a Lucario, and I figured why not Shadow Ball again, and yup, it was one-shotted too. Next is Passimian, and hey, if it worked twice, why not thrice? Shadow Ball takes it down. Finally we faced our Starmobile, and it was actually able to take a Shadow Ball, but not 3 of them. Yeah, Goldango is a monster. We get Aries' backstory and learn that she really is the strongest in Team Star. She even trained the other members how to battle. Turns out, she's a really nice girl despite the appearance. Clive talks to that grunt we beat earlier, and she reveals that she used to bully Eri because she ended up being more popular than her. But then things changed and she was the one getting bullied shortly after. Despite what this girl did to Eri, she was forgiven and invited to Team Star to fight against those bullies. Damn, this whole situation just sucked. Cassiopeia gives us a call after, and she says that she's the big boss of Team Star and that she'll meet us in the schoolyard after dark for a battle. Wow. Back at the academy, Clive reveals that he was actually Director Clavel the whole time. I could have guessed. But then he says Cassiopeia is actually him. Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. But he does challenge us to a battle anyway. He starts off with a level 60 Oranguru. I really had no idea what I was getting into here, so I panicked and swapped into Farigiraf. But maybe I should have started with what I had because it just used Foul Play twice and knocked us out. I swapped into Masquerada and used Night Slash, but it tanked it and used Yawn. At this point, I felt like a U-turn would be the best move, and we knock it out and switch into Tinkaton. But then he had a Gyarados, so I felt like Masquerada was actually the better option now. Surprisingly, Gyarados didn't take that much damage to Flower Trick, so I Terrastalized to ensure it would go down the next time. Next, he sent out a Bombasnow, so I had Kingambit get in there and whittle it down with a couple of attacks. Next, he used a Poltegeist, so I had Goldango get in there and use Shadow Ball, although it did tank it due to the previous Mon setting up Aurora Veil. Not like it really mattered though, because it tried to Will-O-Wisp us even though it does nothing, so we ended up being just fine. Next was Amoonguss, and again, he tries a status move on us. Like, bro, what is this AI? Even when it does use Hex, we tank it and finish off with Shadow Ball. I'm assuming they just blindly programmed this battle AI to use a status move and spam Hex since it does double damage to an inflicted Pokemon. Well, his last one is Skeledirge, and oh, is this the Fuecoco from the start of the game who didn't get picked? Okay, well, I decided to have Tatsugiri come in and use Surf twice to take it down, winning the battle. Gotta say, the director was stronger than I expected, but not strong enough. Now, of course, we have to face the real Cassiopeia, but since it's still daytime, I figured we should train up, punch a few Chanseys, and take on the last gym. We make it into Alfornada, and man, just going through this last city, I'm so sad about all these buildings just being damn sandwich shops in every city. Nimona meets us here and cheers us on for the last gym badge, but now let's take the gym test. It seems we have to do an exercise with the Academy's battle teacher, Dendra, and this is called the Emotional Spectrum Practice. What? I guess she's friends with the gym leader here and she lost a bet, so she has to do this too. So in this, we have to practice feeling emotions. Genuinely, what were they even thinking with this? Well, we battle some dudes in between and finally pass the test. We then meet the gym leader Tulip, and she's a famous makeup artist. Her first Pokemon is Giraffe, and I saw this coming actually, so I had King Gambit start off. But it already seemed like this was going to be easy because of the level gap anyway. Well, we terrestrialize King Gambit and use Kowtow Cleave, one-shotting the Giraffe. She does send in Gardevoir, but Dazzling Gleam just doesn't do enough, and we one-shot it too. Next is a Spothra, who also does not withstand our power, and finally Florges, who did manage to outspeed us and take us down with a Moonblast. But sadly for her, we have a Goldengo come out and erase her off the map with a Shadow Ball, getting our final gym badge. Afterwards, Nemona and Geeta show up to congratulate us and welcome us to the Pokemon League. Oh, but after all that's happening, it's finally nighttime, so let's fight Cassiopeia. When we arrive, we find out that Cassiopeia was Penny the whole time. Can't say that's much of a surprise though, but hey, at least we can give her a good battle. Her first Pokemon is Umbreon, and it seemed like her first objective was to rage bait me as much as possible by spamming baby doll eyes on all my Pokemon. I finally switched to Giraffe, and then randomly she wanted to use Dark Pulse, which of course was super effective. Whatever, I swapped into Tinkaton and hit it with as many attacks as I needed to beat it. Next was Flareon, which definitely wasn't as bad since we could just surf it with Tatsugiri. And she had Jolteon, so we had Goldengo go in, and bro, she tries to use baby doll eyes again? Like what? Why do you guys keep doing this? Even when it doesn't work, she just uses it again and again, giving us the opportunity to use a million nasty plots and max out our stats. Yeah, this fight is over. Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Leafeon all blown away and erased by Shadow Balls. And finally, we unleash all of our power with a Make It Rain on her Sylveon. I think her battle music put up more of a fight than she did. Frickin' baby doll eyes spamming on a Goldengo, bro, what a noob. Then we get a flashback of her calling the Team Star bosses and telling them to disband. Apparently, the altercation with the bullies didn't even have any battling at all, but it was still controversial, and we see the moment where Penny sacrificed herself for the team. Well, it wasn't really a sacrifice, was it? I mean, she got to go chill with her cool-ass dad Peony and Galar. That is her dad, by the way. After all this, though, Clive reveals himself as the director to Penny, and it seems like she was genuinely surprised. But then all of the Team Star members arrive and finally meet the boss in person. They have a heartfelt reunion, but Glavel says that they still broke a lot of rules in their time away from school. So he assigns them community service, managing their bases and using them as training facilities for the academy. So basically what they were doing before, but they actually matter now? Not a bad deal at all. You know, now that we're back in school, we can walk around and talk to some of the staff here, and they actually have some decent dialogue. This is like if you took the Persona social link system and diluted it down with about 10 gallons of water, but I guess the conversations are pretty interesting. I like talking with the nurse especially. It was a bit uncanny seeing these dialogues progress so fast though. I think maybe these are supposed to progress over the course of the game, not sure, let me know. Well, the conversation that is actually important happens when we go to the director's office and meet with Penny. She confesses that all of the LP she was giving us was actually stolen from the government. Wow. Glavel says he'll talk to Geeta about what to do about this. If we meet Penny outside though, she says that her punishment ended up just being working for them, since the amount of skill required to hack into their systems is kind of insane anyway. I swear, if the world actually punished kids like this, our society would be a lot more harmonic. Penny says that if we ever need help from her, she'll be there, and trust me, we'll need it. Okay, well with that plot line complete, there's only one thing left for us to do. Defeat the Elite Four and become a champion. Just past this gate is the Pokemon League, and for once, there is no victory road. There is a trainer though, so maybe he's pretty strong, and he even says he wants to take on the Pokemon League. Oh, he has a level 14 Meowth. Okay, well maybe you're a little too weak. At the entrance of the Pokemon League, we meet Geeta and enter the building. First, we have to take an interview and answer a lot of basic questions that test our experience as a trainer. I heard you could actually fail this, but I wouldn't know anything about that. Let's start the Elite Four. Oh, Rika is our first battle. She starts off with Wishcash and we use Tinkaton. I didn't like the matchup though, so I swapped out into Meowscarada and one-shot it with Flower Trick. She had a camera up next, so I used Tatsugiri and one Surf took her down. Her next mon is Donphan, who tanks a Surf with Sturdy, but doesn't manage to survive another. She then had a Dugtrio, which outsped our Tatsugiri and knocked it out with Earthquake. So I had Meowscarada come in and Flower Trick knocking it out. Lastly, she sends in Clodsire, which brought up some memories of my own. We sent in Tinkaton, but Clodsire protected, and then the next turn we couldn't take it down with the Gigaton Hammer, so we got Earthquaked. The battle was already sealed though, and all we needed was a single Flower Trick to get the win. Next up, that damn baby shows up and challenges us. Poppy sends in Cop Roger first up, and I low-key didn't know what to expect here, so I swapped to Giraffe. Unfortunately, our attacks seemed to not really do much to this beast, and we go down. I figured why not set in King Gambit though and use low kick to beat it. She then had a Corviknight, which seems quite hard for us to actually hurt. I figured the best move here was to use Thunder Wave and swap into Goldengo. Seems like that was right, as it used Body Press and couldn't even touch us. I even got a little risky and used Nasty Plot, but I don't think Corviknight had any moves to possibly harm us besides Brave Bird, and that didn't do much. So now that we're fully built up, we use Shadow Ball and knock out Corviknight. She sent in Bronzong, which of course was one shot. Next was Magnezone, which did manage to survive thanks to Sturdy setting up a light screen, but this really all is futile, isn't it? The last Pokemon is Tinkaton, and to ensure we one shot, we Terrastalize and use Shadow Ball, defeating Poppy. Honestly, if you give any chance for Goldango to set up, this fight is over. Next up is Larry? Welcome back, I guess. I decided to start off with Tinkaton, and he sent in Tropius. Guess he's using flying types now. Tropius is not a good Pokemon though, so it went down to 2 hits from Tinkaton. Next he sent in Altaria, which did hurt us a bit using the sun boosted flamethrower, but we still tanked it and knocked it out. He then sends in Staraptor, and I remember how annoying that was to beat originally, so I had Farigiraf come in and Thunderbolt it, basically one-shotting it thanks to the damage it did to itself with Brave Bird. Next is Oricorio, and even though it is the electric type one, I sent in Tatsugiri because you have to remember it's not just a water type, but also half dragon, resisting that damage and allowing us to beat it pretty easily. Lastly, he had a Flamigo, and we sent out Meowscarada. Although it one-shot us with Brave Bird, at this point the fight is won for us though. Even though we lose Tinkaton, Goldango comes in to deal the final blow. The last Elite Four member is Hassel, and I was prepared for a tough fight. He uses Dragon type, so we start with Tinkaton. It does manage to hit us with a Super Fang and tanks a Play Rough. Not a great way to start, but we do knock it out. Next up is Dragalge, and it also tanks a Play Rough, so I switch out and go to Tatsugiri. I Terrastalize and use Dragon Pulse, instantly beating it. He sends in Flapple, but it goes down to a single Dragon Pulse. Next is Haxorus, and sadly it is faster than our Tatsugiri, so we lose him. I sent in Meowscarada to use Play Rough, and it manages to survive, but we also live and use Play Rough once more. Finally, he has Excalibur, and it Terrastalizes and uses Glaive Rush. I don't think I've ever seen that move before, but regardless, we go into Goldango and Shadow Ball to finish the job. Okay, now it's time to face the true #1 champion in Paldea. Let's see if Geeta lives up to the hype. Look, she even tries to Aura Farm before the fight, talking about some "I'm incapable of holding back in a Pokemon battle." Sure. Her first Pokemon is a Spathra, and we exchange blows back and forth a bit with her Tinkaton, ultimately with us coming out on top. She then had an Avalugg, which somehow tanked the Gigaton Hammer. Well, we sent in Farigiraf and finished it off with Psychic. She then sent in Kingambit, and I figured it was only right to have a mirror match with ours to see who was truly the king. Turns out she just didn't teach her a slow kick. Next up, she has a Go-Goat, so we have Meowscarada use U-Turn into Farigiraf. It does know Horn Leech though, which did a ton to Farigiraf and healed it up too. For some reason it didn't use it again though, and we sent back out Meowscarada to U-Turn it, taking it out. Her next mon is Veluza, and I decided it was time to unleash the monster, Goldango. With a single unstat boosted Shadow Ball, we take it down, and then she sends in her ace Glamora. She Terrastalized, but it is all for naught because it gets one shot by Goldango doing a money spread. And with that, we defeated the fraudulent champion of Paldea, becoming one ourselves. Back outside the Pokemon League, we meet up with Nemona once again, and she expresses her gratitude for us becoming a great rival. And of course, she asks us to battle at full strength for the first time. Her first Pokemon is Lycanroc, and we one-shot it with Gigaton Hammer. And she has Earthworm come out, and it does a ton of damage with Earthquake to us. I decided to send in Tatsugiri and use Surf to take it down though. Next was the Dunsparce, but I remembered how strong this thing could be, so I paralyzed it and used a lot of attacks with Kingambit to defeat it. Next up was Palmut, and we have Farigiraf come in. It did manage to hurt us a lot with a close combat, but all it took was one Psychic to beat it. Next she sent in Goodra, and I used Play Rough, but it ate it and hit us with Ice Beam. Barely hanging on, we hit it with another Play Rough, and you know, at this point, I started smiling because her last Pokemon, Quaquaval, has literally never gotten to attack once in this entire playthrough because of this brutal speed and type Mog. Once again, Nemona praises us for our guaranteed critical hit, and we defeat Fraudmona. But hey, at least she gives us a legendary dap up after the fight. And so, the 3 major quest lines of the game are complete, but there's still one goal left. Area 0. We meet up with Arvid at the entrance of the Great Crater. Inside this building, Nemona and Penny have also arrived to help us out. Professor Sada opens the gate and, oh, it's literally just a diving platform. Well, it seems like she wants us to fly down on Koraidon, so we all hop on, or I guess just freaking leave me then. Like, Koraidon, what the hell did I train you all this time for? Alright, well, we landed and Koraidon seems terrified out of his mind and retreats into its ball. Professor Sada calls us and tells us that her lab is in the deepest part of Area 0, and it's guarded by 4 locks within 4 research centers, so we gotta go unlock them. We suffer our first lag spike in the Switch 2 version of this game, and actually that is impressive it took that long to have one. The vibe instantly shifts here, and it almost feels like a Final Fantasy game or some other JRPG like that. Our party talks while we traverse this area, and it really does seem like this isn't the same game we've been playing just a few minutes ago. In front of the first lab, we fight a Glamora, which kind of makes me think that Geeta has actually been down here before, even if they say no one ever goes down here. Inside the lab, we disable the lock, but there are also some some books here that give us some lore. It seems as if Professor Sada is the one who invented Terra Orbs and terastallizing in general, using the power of this Pokemon with a redacted name. Hopefully we'll learn more about the Sada files later on. Up ahead at the second lab, we encounter this Jigglypuff looking thing, but it is most certainly not a Jigglypuff. We battle this thing named Screamtail and then head into the lab. We discuss what that Pokemon-like thing even was, and all Arvin knows is from his book, which also doesn't say much. Sada then tells us that these are ancient Pokemon from the past. Yeah, they came from a time machine. Well, we disable the lock. Arvin also decides to entrust us with this Scarlet book. After moving on and talking about our family situations for a bit, we make it to the third lab and find one of these beasts. This time, it's Great Tusk, although it's not as big as the Titan we fought earlier. In the third lab, Sada tells us more about Koraidon. It was the first Pokemon taken from ancient times. She only ever brought 2 of them over though, meaning there's probably still one here, somewhere. While we're going deeper into Area Zero, Arvin tells us more about Koraidon. It used to live in the lighthouse, but one day Koraidon went crazy on some wild Pokemon and then Sada took it back to Area Zero. But then she literally never came back after that. Seriously messed up stuff. Deep in Area Zero, we see that the whole place is covered in these crystals. There are also a lot more of these ancient Pokemon showing up. I even decided to catch one of them, being Fluttermane. I won't be using it right now, but I liked its design and I caught it. Who knows, maybe I'll need it someday. We finally make it to the last lab though, and it seems like this one is a big mess. Like some Pokemon went crazy here. Sada starts to speak to us, but her communications start to glitch out. Guess it makes sense with the state of this lab. We disable the lock and Sada speaks again and says it was a communication interference, but Arvin isn't convinced. But with all the locks disabled, we can reach the deepest part of Area Zero and enter the lab. Although, Sada warns us that once we open the lab, a bunch of dangerous ancient Pokemon will be unleashed. Arvin suggests that we get Koraidon to help us, so we let him out before unlocking the door. In the distance though, we see another Koraidon appear and attack us. Ours is unbelievably scared and won't fight back, but the evil one seems to be more interested in the lab opening back up. But we have bigger fish to fry anyway, with all these ancient Pokemon coming out and attacking us. With the help of our friends, we fend them off and decide to head into the lab ourselves while our friends cover for us. Arvin leaves Koraidon with one message though. He tells it that it ruined his life, so the very least it can do is not be a little baby now that we need its help. Damn. We head inside and Sada is slumped over like Golden Freddy. What the hell? The evil Koraidon is also here and is put inside its Pokeball by Sada. She explains that our Koraidon fled Area Zero off a territorial struggle. She also says that she is a robot and that the real professor passed away during the incident in the 4th research lab. The real professor was killed by evil Koraidon in an effort to protect ours. Dark stuff. Apparently all of the technology here is powered by the resources in Area Zero, and Sada created an AI version of herself to manage the lab as she became more obsessed with researching Area Zero in the past. AI Sada takes us into this room and asks us to stop the time machine by placing the Scarlet book into this pedestal. The issue is that the AI Sada is programmed to defend the time machine at any cost, meaning it will probably attack us. It was programmed using the battle knowledge of some of the strongest champions in Paldean history. She has faith that we can defeat her though, so we put the book in its place and Sada asks to beat her in a battle. Sada sends out her first Pokemon, Slitherwing, and oh my god, this music is insane. Okay, well, crazy battle music aside, we start off the fight with Tinkaton, and after a few hits, Slitherwing goes down. Next is Brute Bonnet, and we have Meowscarada come out and use Play Rough. We miss though, so the next turn we do the same thing, but get Sucker Punch this time. And actually, the same thing happens like 2 turns in a row. We even miss Play Rough again, but we finally beat it with a U-turn. Our next Pokemon is Sandy Shocks, and we have Farigiraf come out to use Psychic twice, and one of them getting a critical hit, dealing enough damage to beat it. Next, she has a Screamtail that survives a Shadow Ball from Goldengo, but not 2. Next, she has Fluttermane, and we terastallize Goldengo this time and use Shadow Ball, guaranteeing the knockout. Finally, she sends in Roaring Moon, but our team is beaten down bad at this point, and I'm kinda nervous. I swap it to Tinkaton, but we just get Earthquaked and defeated. Then we have Meowscarada come out, and it goes down to a Dragon Claw. Then was Farigiraf, and it used Night Slash to beat us. Then we sent in Goldengo again, but it used Stone Edge to knock us out. One by one, our team had been picked apart, and only King Gambit remained. Fully charged with power from its ability, it tanks an Earthquake, and we use Thunder Wave. With little option left, we max revive our Tinkaton, use Fake Out, then use Play Rough to guarantee the victory, defeating AI Sada. The rest of our friends rush in, and Arvin finally meets his mom, or well, what's left of her. The robot seems to try and apologize to Arvin, but then the building itself goes into Paradise Protection Protocol and takes over AI Sada's systems. It sends out evil Koraidon, and all of our Pokeballs are seemingly locked. We literally have no way of fighting back now. Well, with the sole exception of one one Pokeball that will open, Koraidon's. Finally brave enough to fight, it transforms back into its battle form. Despite its new form, we are still significantly weaker than it. But even so, Koraidon refuses to go down and we terrastalize it, using Terra Blast to take down its evil counterpart. AI Sada seems to return to normal, but the time machine itself cannot be stopped as long as she is still here. So she decides the only way to save everyone is to use the time machine to travel back into the past herself. Obviously, she would not survive if she did that, but it is the only way. And regardless, she is only a robot after all, so AI Sada leaves this timeline and heads into the time machine, putting this all to an end. And with that, we save the Paldea region from being overrun by Paradox Pokemon. Heading back out of Area Zero, it seems like the four of us and Koraidon have really become close after all we went through. Ed Sheeran! Well, credits aside, we completed the main game, but before we could take on the DLC, there is actually a bit of a post-game. Back in Director Clavel's office, the group discusses what just happened and what's going to happen going forward. While we can't make public what we did in Area Zero, we can celebrate us becoming a champion. Nemona suggests having a battle contest of sorts, and then Geeta walks in saying that she'd be willing to help organize it. She'd like to host a contest featuring both students and staff to see who is the strongest trainer. She actually also wants to compete, however, she's a little too busy with her work. She seems to need to perform gym leader inspections, but we offer to help her out and rematch all the gyms. To be honest, if I wanted to detail on each of these fights, it would probably add another 20 minutes to the video, and it would mostly be the exact same things happening, just at a higher level. Besides, none of these rematches took more than one or two of my Pokemon to defeat. It was at least nice fighting some of those easier battles on a more even level though. But when we do defeat all of them, we report back to Geeta with how the gym leaders did, and then split up for now. We did speak to Nemona though, and she managed to officially prepare the Academy Ace tournament, although she won't be able to compete in it. Well, we start the tournament ourselves, and our first battle is against Arven. He started off with Greedent, so I used Nasty Plot and one-shot it with Make It Rain the next turn. Then he sent in Scovillain, so I had Farigiraf use Psychic a few times to take it out. Then he had his Toedscruel, which swiftly took us out, so we had Meowscarada go in and use U-turn, doing a lot of damage and swapping into Tinkaton. We ate an Earth Power, but we took it out with Play Rough. He then sent in Garganackle, so we had Tatsugiri come in and Surf, one-shotting it. Arven then had a Cloyster, which managed to survive a Meowscarada Flower Trick, but we just use it again and leave Arven with his final Pokemon, Mabostiff. We have King Gambit come out and eat several Fire Fangs while using Low Kick until we defeat him. First round of the tournament complete. Next round, we face up against Jock, who we have never seen battle before. His first Pokemon, Arcanine, seemed to be a bit of an issue, even taking out our Tatsugiri with Play Rough because, well, I just forgot that Tatsugiri was a Dragon type, to be honest. We then sent out Farigiraf, who managed to survive, and Arcanine fainted to its own recoil damage. Jock sends out Lurantis, and we lose Farigiraf to a Night Slash. But we did do enough damage for Meowscarada to come in and finish it off. Next, he had a Mudsdale, naturally getting one-shot by a Flower Trick, and then a Slowbro, and yup, once again, we one-shot it with Flower Trick, this time terastallizing to ensure the KO. Jock sent out Swalot, who tanks a couple Flower Tricks and also poisoned us pretty badly. His last Pokemon is Farigiraf, and Meowscarada goes down, but Tinkaton comes in to win us the battle and secure our place in the semi-finals. This one is against Dendra, who we briefly met before the last gym, but have yet to see her team. She starts with Phalanx, and I somehow one-shot it with Make It Rain. She then had a Tauros in its red form. I actually wasn't familiar with this, but I still had Tatsugiri come in to destroy it with Surf. She also had the blue form Tauros, and it unfortunately took out our Tatsugiri before we could hit it. I sent in Farigiraf to use Thunderbolt, and it went down easily. She sends in Hawlucha, and while it was faster than us, it simply could not take a Thunderbolt as well. Next was Medicham, who quickly took care of our Farigiraf, but was one shot by Play Rough from Tinkaton. Finally, she has Hariyama come in and terastallizes it, tanking a Play Rough while we tank an Earthquake. The next turn, we actually missed our final Play Rough and lose Tinkaton to close combat. The fight was already won though, since Meowscarada came in to deal the last blow, securing our place in the finals. Unsurprisingly, our last opponent is Geeta, who I'm hoping will beat the fraud allegations. Starting off with the Spathra, I instantly take it down with Shadow Ball. Then she had Avalugg, which gets one shot by Make It Rain. Not a great start for her. Next was King Gambit, so we mirror that and one shot it with Low Kick. Then was Go-Goat, and we use a Night Slash and U-turn with Meowscarada, switching into Farigiraf, who was able to deal the last blow to it. Next was Veluza, who could not withstand two Thunderbolts from us, leaving her final Pokemon Glamora, who does manage to take down our Farigiraf, but gets blown away by one measly Surf from Tatsugiri. Wow, this is easily the most fraudulent champion in all of Pokemon. I think her rematch team was actually worse. Well, we're officially the best trainer in the academy. Not like we didn't know that already. After we head back inside, Nemona has a little heart-to-heart with us, and then I noticed we could have some extra dialogues with the main cast. These are just some deeper looks into each of the characters. Penny's little story is cool because you get to see Team Star start to readjust back into school life. Also, at the end of each of these mini storylines, you can visit your friends' dorms, and each are designed just as you would imagine. But besides that, that's really it for the post-game storyline. After playing through Scarlet and Violet, my expectations expectations have both been met and exceeded. First, let's talk about the ugly, and boy, there is a lot of ugly. Alright, so this video is gonna mostly be talking about the literal game that I played, meaning that I don't want to rip too hard into the initial release of the game on Switch 1, but that being said, I still have to acknowledge it. Scarlet and Violet had no business being released in the state that it was. Just to do some research, I checked out Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 1 to see if the hate on the visuals and frame rate were as bad as they were worked up to be, and somehow they were worse. I mean, to me, this played like I was playing through this game on Switch 2 like I did, but with my glasses off and 8 beers deep. If I wore glasses and drank, that is. Well, what I'm saying is that everything looks blurry and feels like you're trudging through mud. Usually, Pokemon fans tend to over-hate on new entries in the series, so I didn't think it was this bad, but yeah, this is borderline unplayable. But ultimately, they did make an attempt to salvage this game on the Switch 2, and as you can see in the video, it does run quite well. I consistently ran at 1080p 60 FPS for the majority of the game, and I'm pretty sure the resolution could have actually been higher if I was playing on a 4K TV instead of my capture card set up on my computer. Also, this version is capable of spawning in a lot more Pokemon in the world at once, making it feel more lively. Unfortunately, this did not save the issues with the textures. In fact, it kind of just made it clearer to see the weird Mario 64 look that things had once you moved a little bit further from them. And there's this weird shape-shifting effect that happens with the ground textures, and if any game developer can explain this in the comments, I would really appreciate it because I just didn't understand why this was happening. But I don't think this is crazy to say that this is unacceptable, right? I get that the Switch 1 was underpowered, but we still had plenty of both first and third-party games capable of rendering an open world that at least looks decent, if not downright beautiful sometimes. I do have one great thing to say about the visuals though. The character models and designs are absolutely fantastic. Ever since like Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, they really haven't missed with the characters, and Scarlet and Violet only adds on to that. All of the main characters, along with Team Star and the gym leaders, really do have memorable personalities and looks. I mean, look at Eri, for example, whose character is based on Japanese pro wrestlers and how they put on a tough exterior for show despite being incredibly kind as well. Iono is another really cool show of how a profession and a person can be so linked together, as she's a streamer who clearly likes what she's doing, but understands there's also the importance of making money from it as well, which I definitely understand. There's also a ton of representation for underrepresented communities in gaming. Obviously, the Hispanic community has been given the most spotlight due to the region of Paldea taking place on the Iberian Peninsula, and Nimona is the lead example of this group, funnily enough filling the extremely rare role of a rich Hispanic person in media. Finally nice having some representation in media that isn't working fields or making pizzas. Sorry if I'm harping on this point too much, but my only representation in this franchise has been Mexicans and the occasional tan character. I mean, they completely missed the proper representation of Latinos in Unova, which was annoying as a New Yorker Hispanic Latino. As for other minority groups, I noticed that the champion Geeta is the first Indian representation in Pokemon, which is awesome, but did they really have to use her in the stereotypical Indian chairman CEO role? There's also a lot of seemingly unspoken representation within character designs and personalities of characters like Penny, Rika, and a bunch of others, but I think those are intentionally left up to the interpretation of the player. I know this section on character design has been a little more complex than they usually are in my videos, but I think it's important to mention this because when I was a kid, I couldn't even make my own character have my skin color. But if I got a little too woke here, well, the characters look pretty and cool, I guess. Alright, now let's talk about the gameplay and the story. So in my mind, this game is the best in the franchise based on concept alone. I mean, you get 3 great storylines and main objectives that converge into a giant moment at the end. One of them, you have your classic 8 gym battles that you're taking on with Nimona, who is actually already a champion and is kind of just smurfing and trying again, which is awesome. But then you have the other storyline with Team Star, which is pretty serious actually, and it shows how bullying can affect people and the consequences of it. And then you have Arven's storyline, where you're defeating these titans in an effort to heal his Mabosstiff, and along the way you heal your legendary as well. And after all this, he learns more about his mother, who is the professor and has a very dark past. The fact that all the work you put in getting the gym badges, defeating Team Star, and helping Arven with the titans all end in potentially saving the region from the devastation of Paradox Pokemon is really cool. But as great as this sounds, the execution could have been so much better. The game offers complete freedom in how you choose to tackle these missions, although there is clearly an order that it wants you to do them. Obviously, you can't just go fight Eri with a Sprigatito and a Wooper, but it's not fun after after beating half of the region to go see the other side, and you're like 25 levels over them. But even worse than that is the intended order is just stupidly placed anyway. Why would I beat the Bug Gym and the Stone Titan, but randomly just leave to the other side for Brashus, and then come back to the west for the Flying Titan and Giacomo, and then go back to Iono, and then Mela, and then you go back to the other side again? Like, what? Then you're supposed to go from the Ghost Gym, which by the way isn't even the first gym you encounter going up the mountain, and then you go to the Psychic Gym on the bottom of the map, and then you go back to Grusha. I mean, someone make sense of this. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the battles late into the game just ended up getting one-tapped because of this weird placement, and it definitely didn't help that my team is full of some insanely strong guys. I mean, I'm not faulting the game for my team being strong, but I am for it not making the order of completion clear to the player, even if it's there. And they totally could have done this and let us do it in any order we still wanted to. More on the difficulty, I think they could have definitely cranked it up a bit. I mean, they give us access to some ridiculous Pokemon at the very start of the adventure, so the fact that the gym leaders don't even heal their Pokemon anymore is kinda strange. Not to mention the addition of the new mechanic terrestrialization being completely misused. As someone familiar with competitive play, the whole idea of terrestrialization seems to be best used in order to cover your Pokemon's weaknesses. For example, giving Ghost Terra type to your Incineroar to avoid getting hit with Fake Out. I mean, even that's kind of advanced. Like, I'm talking you could just make your Fire type into a Water type or something. But throughout the game, the gym leaders just give their last Mon the same type as their gym. I mean, sometimes, like Brashus' Sudowoodo becoming truly Wudo is kind of funny, but what good does making a Pokemon same type Terrastalize if it just takes the same super effective damage as what you probably brought to the gym anyway? Even the Pokemon League members do this too, which is strange because you'd think they'd at least switch it up, maybe use some held items or something, but no. Just a bunch of victims for my Goldango and friends. This is super duper weird because Scarlet and Violet gives you the easiest access to competitive level Pokemon. EV training feathers are just lying in the water infinitely. Nature mints are cheap and you can get them at the store. Like, there have been so many Pokemon games that are so much harder with less options for making your team OP. Seriously, man, we have access to Goldango, Dragonite, Dragapult, Kingambit, Garchomp. Like, we can handle it, bro. I know it seems like I complain about the difficulty in every Pokemon game, especially in the 3D era, but like, am I wrong? It's not even that they can't make a fairly challenging game either. They did it in Sun and Moon. I mean, they even made the Pokemon League in BDSP fully EV trained with held items. Oh well. Now I guess the last thing to talk about is the music. To put it as bluntly as I can, this is a lame soundtrack carried by a handful of good songs. And I mean handful as literally as I can. Just looking at it, the gym battle music, it's okay. The Team Star music, that's great. But aside from those, all I can think about is all of the songs that Toby Fox made being amazing. Oh yeah, Toby Fox made music for this game. I mean, technically he made the main theme of the game that you hear in Naranja or Uva Academy, I think that's what it's called in Violet. And yeah, that song is a banger. But he also did a ton of battle music and all the songs from Area Zero, which are distinctly amazing. If you haven't heard those, give them a listen. And yeah, don't even get me started on the final boss music. But yeah, besides that, I don't have any memory of good music from this game just out and about. The open world just has super boring tracks that lack any sort of catchiness. But this isn't even the worst part. When you beat the game, you have to listen to Ed Sheeran. So with all of this, I can certainly say I have mixed feelings about Scarlet and Violet. As for the Switch 1 release, I will say that this is not good. Even though it is the same game, the way that it feels is just not enjoyable to play. But the Switch 2 version really does allow me to see what this game wanted to be. I definitely had a great time with it. But you know, I think 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back on Scarlet and Violet with a lot of what ifs. What if this game had a little longer to marinate? What if it truly got to bring its genius concepts to life without the ugliness and poor performance? I guess we'll never know. Well, after all this, we do still have a lot of unanswered questions about Scarlet and Violet. What are the origins of Area Zero, and who is this mysterious shelled creature in Arvin's book? But most importantly, who is this lady here that magically popped up in the lobby when I bought the DLC and beat the game? Find out next time. If you watched this far in the video, that's impressive really, so thank you. If you want to see more of me and get early access to all my new videos, check out my channel memberships below. Alright, thanks for watching.